Welcome to our web exclusive. I'm Mike Montecalvo along with Eyewitness News Analyst Lieutenant General Reginald Centracchio. General, the latest developments now on the battle against ISIS. Interesting words on Wednesday. The new Prime Minister of Iraq is not looking for any ground troops from the United States. He says it's not necessary, not warranted. He's saying to shift all of them into Syria. What do you make of the statement?
Well, I think what he's looking to is to be able to establish the real concern that he's able to maintain his own security. And that has to be tested. And I think what he's apparently doing is gaining some kind of trust and confidence in the Iraqi military. And I hope he does that, because that's exactly what the intent was of the strategy to begin with.
Now, you've been saying for months now the ground troops would happen. Obviously, we're hearing that right now. They're going to be deployed back into the area. ISIS is getting most of the attention, but we can't forget about Al-Qaeda.
You're right, Mike. ISIS is but a splinter of Al-Qaeda. And Al-Qaeda has been growing and growing. It hasn't been so vocal and so visible over the last several years, but nevertheless it's become stronger than it was, as I understand it, since 9/11. We're just paying attention to ISIS right now because it's such a radical organization and doing barbaric things. That's where the attention is going. But simultaneously, other groups within Al-Qaeda are growing equally as rapid.
Well, you talk about them, the Taliban and all these other terrorist groups. What we're hearing out of the Middle East is they're actually afraid of ISIS. So if they're a splinter group, how did that happen?
Yeah, it happens because you have radicals in any organization. Even radical organizations have radicals within it. And that's exactly what we see with ISIS. They're looking at the radical application of their interpretation of Islam to be able to apply Sharia law within that area, and the Islamic State would be based upon what they believe, and that would be an absolute application of Sharia law.
All right, we talked about downsizing the military since Iraq and Afghanistan. Now we're talking about adding more troops. How many more troops will be going to the Middle East?
Well, right now we're looking at 1,500 in theater. And last several days, President Obama talked about putting 3,000 troops to help somewhat squelch the rapid spread of Ebola. They would be in country to be able to teach healthcare personnel how to handle Ebola patients, as well as to construct some military medical facilities within that area. So we're talking about 1,500 in the Mideast, another 3,000 beyond what we have deployed across the world, specifically for the Mideast, and 3,000 in Africa. A subsequent requirement would be whether in fact the active military can handle this, because as you just said, there's an attempt, or at least it's in process right now, of downsizing the active force as well as the reserve components and taking down the budget. So there's a real fine balance that we're looking at.
Where does the Guard fit in all of this?
The Guard will participate in any downsizing as well as any budget considerations, but at the same time the Guard most likely would be looked at to be able to fill the void in the event we have larger mobilizations and requirement for more troop strength, especially if any decisions are made to be able to put ground troops in Syria.
All right, General, one of the criticisms has been multiple deployments, whether it was to Iraq or Afghanistan. There were some soldiers that were going back so many times that they were coming back with issues.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about multiple deployments again if we're going down this road.
I hope we don't see that, but that's always a possibility. We're still weathering the storm on our retention capability within the reserve components. You look at mobilization every 3 to 5 years for 18 months or more. That's significant, not only for the families, but certainly for the employers and absolutely for the troops themselves. So it's a methodology that really needs to be looked at before we go into that whole scenario again.
So you're not surprised by any of this at this point?
No, I'm not, because we've seen it happen in each of the times we've tried to end a particular conflict. Regardless of who the administration is, there's always some residual requirement to either return. But if you look back in our history, we still have troops in Korea. We still have troops in Germany. And all the rest of the conflicts that we've had over our total history, we still have troops there to be able to not so much defend something, but to have a presence in the event that something went awry.
All right, General, as always, thank you for your thoughts, and thank you very much for watching.